So, I'm going to discuss some controversial things in this video or series of videos, and I want to make sure that people understand I in no way support any form of extremism. I'm somewhat familiar with James Mason. My father was a fan of James Mason. James Mason was a popular figure in the, I would say the white ethno-state community in the early 1980s and through the 1990s, and he was also influential in Satanism in the 1980s and 90s. And this is going to be a video dealing with a group which I think may be rightly, I think it is rightly assigned as an extremist group. But I also want to point out some of these anti-American groups posing as anti-extremist organizations that are even partnering with the Department of Homeland Security. We remember that during Trump, basically white supremacists were considered to be the number one threat to America. The only problem with that is they never really clearly defined white supremacist, and it was really just a catch-all phrase for anybody they didn't like, including conservatives and even conservatives that weren't white. If you remember, January 6th was organized by a gentleman named Ali Alexander, who was he was like half black and half Iranian. And then you had a gentleman, the dude that was the head of the Proud Boys was a Afro-Latino. And then you had, but these were all people being called white supremacists. The original founder of the Proud Boys was an anarchist from Canada. And you saw a lot of Canadian influence in the Trumpian movement, like Laura Loomer. You saw a lot of Canadian influence. That's all I'm going to say there. And we're going to move on. This starts with this is NBC harassing this gentleman, James Mason. And I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to take this apart as we go forward.
He seems ordinary. Gray hair, tan jacket, slacks, unassuming. A pedestrian.
Now, what's humorous is there was a gentleman by the name of Bob Larson, he's a huckster, a scam artist, a faith healer, a exorcist, if you will, and he's a scam artist. But one of the things that made him big was he would get Satanists on and show how evil Satanism is, and he was one of the main promoters of the Satanic Panic. So it was people like him, Bob Larson, that made the Satanic Panic a reality, even though it wasn't a reality. But we're going to move on here.
Among pedestrians making his way through Denver's Capitol Hill neighborhood. Here he is sharing a crosswalk with a woman. It's safe to say this man hates her simply because of the color of her skin, and she has no idea who's standing next to her. James Nolan Mason, age 67, longtime neo-Nazi, and most recently an advisor to a militant extremist group known as Atomwaffen. International neo-Nazi group whose members see themselves as soldiers gearing up for a race war.
James Mason is a key figure within this movement.
Joanna Mendelson investigates Atomwaffen and James Mason's influence for the Anti-Defamation League, starting with a book of Mason.
Now, we're going to get into the Anti-Defamation League a little later. In this video or in this series of videos. I haven't figured out how it's going to be, whether it's going to be that. But you have the Anti-Defamation League in this anti-extremism movement, which are essentially anti-American, anti-free speech movements. And you will notice a complete absence of black extremist groups from their website, which I will show you. It's concentrated entirely on white groups and Islamic groups. Conveniently enough. The Anti-Defamation League is, of course, a Zionist group.
His writings called Siege.
Siege is essentially the blueprint for action, coupling together the ideology of Adolf Hitler along with the belief system of serial killer Charles Manson.
Mason is an Atomwaffen icon. Here he is, posing among Atomwaffen members in masks and fatigues. Mason's even wearing an Atomwaffen patch. According to the Counter Extremism Project, a nonprofit that tracks extremist groups, Atomwaffen is connected to 5 killings across America, including Sam Woodward, charged for fatally stabbing a 19-year-old gay Jewish man. And just this month,
the 2 men we're talking about had tactical gear, assault rifles, and buckets of ammo.
Atomwaffen members were arrested in Texas.
But every clip they had was completely loaded, like they were ready to go do something right then.
Law enforcement should absolutely take a close look at those who are embracing siege culture.
Enter directory code 023.
Are you gonna knock on the door for us?
Yeah.
Tom Jeremy with 9 News is here.
Okay.
While prolific online, Mason doesn't like journalists.
Mr. Mason.
I wrote to him. He declined an interview in a typed letter saying he's not interested in
Media exposure for purely tactical reasons.
I eventually approached Mason in a West Colfax parking lot.
Hello, Mr. Mason.
Oh, how are you?
How you doing, man?
I got nothing to say, pal. Nothing to say.
Good. Hey, well,
Don't with me, Dad.
yeah. Hey, I don't want to cause any problems.
Well, I got
You're a
nothing
pretty
to say.
prominent figure within the white supremacist movement, and I want to ask you some questions. I mean, the one question I do
don't
want to
wanna
ask
answer
you.
them, though.
The one question I do want to ask you is: do you feel any responsibility for the young people that have turned violent?
None at all.
You don't.
No.
No.
None whatsoever.
What should happen following the turn of the 21st century?
And
Now, this is what you need to understand. I'm not trying to justify any... Well, the fact of the matter is you have freedom of speech. Okay? Flat out, you have freedom of speech. Now, the problem is... Okay, for example, I've seen a lot of people know that I wouldn't say I support Scientology, but I certainly defend Scientology and their fight against psychiatry. And I will continue to support the Church of Scientology and the Citizens Commission on Human Rights in its fight against psychiatry and the psychiatric abuse of innocent Americans and innocent people of the world. And what you see with this Danny Masterson made some very bad decisions with women, and they're trying to blame it on the Church of Scientology. Now, what you have to understand, there is a complete removal of individual responsibility in this world. What they do is they find boogeymen. Whether that boogeyman is L. Ron Hubbard or that boogeyman is James Mason here, they're looking for boogeymen. And they're looking for boogeymen to blame for society's ills, not taking into consideration that the people responsible for society's ills are the people running society. If white people were treated fairly and allowed self-actualization, self-determination, etc., and as I've pointed out, the need for white reservations and things of that nature, do you really think any of the stuff that James Mason is saying would hold any sway over anybody if white people were given the same rights as other groups in America? I doubt it. I doubt it, because there would be no need. If white people were given the same rights as everyone else, in the sense the right to self-determination, the right to freedom of assembly, the right to preserve their genetic lineage and their culture without being made to feel guilty by society, without laws against them being hired and promoted, and luckily the Supreme Court finally, this is one step in a positive direction, the Supreme Court finally knocked down affirmative action in education. But if white people were afforded the same exact freedoms as every other group of people in this country, this gentleman's words would not be, they wouldn't have fertile soil to take root.
From his Section 8 apartment, Mason spreads Adam Waffen's message online around the world.
More young people should bring forth the Adam Waffen division.
A lot of people take your words and they're acting violent based on your words.
If they were acting on my words, they wouldn't be doing the things they're doing, throwing their lives away. I say, and here I am talking to you, but I say, don't do it. But if you're going to do it, for God's sake, do it right.
That's a pretty bold statement.
Well, I've said it to the FBI. I've said it to Denver detectives. It's nothing illegal. It only makes sense.
So do you endorse violence by proxy then? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
I'm simply saying that we have a society that's going crazy.
It sounds like a lot of people, when they watch this, they're going to think that you're crazy by saying
No, I
things
don't
like
care.
that.
Oh, I've had that all my life. What do I care?
A seemingly quiet life that is now dependent on the charity of others when he's not counseling men in camouflage. A few days before I encountered Mason, I watched him get a free lunch at a center for homeless seniors and then go shopping for a bag of peanuts at a Denver grocery store.
You have views where you believe the U.S. government should be overthrown, yet you're relying...
So as you can see, this gentleman, who is obviously a liberal, does not believe that Mr. Mason here should have the same rights as an average American of any race because of Mr. Mason's political views. This is the hypocrisy of liberalism right here.
On the charity of others, and potentially the charity of taxpayers.
Guerrilla warfare, man. Guerrilla warfare. You got to take what you have to get what you need. Okay? That's Chairman Mao. I'm sure you don't have any bad words for him.
While Mason attempts to distance himself from Adam Waffen publicly, he doesn't shy away from his thoughts on how they should listen to him.
There is no doubt that he dances the line between saying I'm not associated with this group and yet showing all the markers that indicate that he is fully embedded with this neo-Nazi organization, Adam Waffen.
There's a lot of young men that are inspired by your writings who want to commit violence.
Mm-hmm. And if they're listening to me, and I do podcasts, and I do a website, and I'll tell you...
Now this is what's funny. He's explaining if they're listening to him, he's saying this. So they're saying, oh, he's telling them to listen to him. Well...
Again, I say don't do it.
Yeah. But you did indicate that you do endorse this by proxy, though.
No, I'm saying don't do it by proxy or any other way.
You said to do it right.
If you've got to do it,
it seems like
if you must do it, it seems to me to be only common sense that you'd want to do it right because it's the end of your life. You may die out there in the street via a SWAT team, or you may spend the rest of your life in the joint. Make it count, for God's sake. That's only common sense. That's all I'm saying.
Denver police and the Denver FBI will not say if they've had any contact with James Mason. Denver police do confirm.
So I want to be certain that people understand that what I cover here, this is about Adam Waffen. What I'm covering here is for educational purposes only. I do not in any way support extremism of any kind. So, Adam Waffen is a National Socialist Resistance Front, is an international far-right, they call everybody far-right and neo-Nazi terrorist network. Okay, formed in 2013 and based in the southern United States. It has since expanded across the United States and into the United Kingdom, Argentina, Canada, Germany, the Baltic states, and the European countries. The group is described as a part of the alt-right. I wouldn't consider it that by some journalists, but it rejects the label, and it is considered extreme even within the movement. It is listed as a hate group by the... Now, I'm going to get into the Southern Poverty Law Center. The Southern Poverty Law Center is full of shit, and they've been full of shit for a very long time, and they're hypocrites. And it is also designated as a terrorist group by multiple governments, including the United Kingdom and Canada. So, it's known as a National Socialist Resistance Front is its alternative name. Its founder is Brandon Russell, then this dude, then this dude, then this dude. Okay. They're claiming James Nolan, he's the advisor. Motives, now this is their motives, and people know my view. I do not ever endorse the overthrow of the United States government. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's right. And I believe in our constitutional republic, okay? So, instigation of ethnic cleansing, blah, 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 establishment of a white ethno-state, which is based upon National Socialism. Texas, headquarters is in Texas. Saaremaa, Estonia. Thuringia, Germany. British Columbia, Canada. Savona, Italy. Tampere, Finland. Active regions, United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Germany, Baltic states, Russia, Switzerland, Italy, Finland, Ireland, and other European countries, as well as Argentina, which I would assume technically is a South American country. Its ideology embraces accelerationism, anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-communism, anti-Semitism, esoteric National Socialism, futurism, homophobia, millenarianism, neo-Nazism, neo-fascism, Order of Nine Angles Satanism, right-wing extremism, white supremacy, and white nationalism. Its political position is far right, okay? It is allegedly major actions, murders 5 to 8 people in the U.S. and up to 6 around the world. What? 5 to 8 people in the U.S. and up to 6 around the world. Wouldn't the U.S. mean... Nah, never mind. That don't make any sense. Status active, full members 80, 50, in the U.S. 80, in the Baltic states 50 to 70, in Germany 50, several dozen, blah, blah, blah. So this is Allies, the Aryan Renaissance Society, Azov Battalion, Blue Awakening, Combat 18, Nordic Resistance Movement, Order of the Nine Angles, Russian Imperial Movement, the Base, designated as a terrorist group by the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, okay. Its history. The group's creation was announced by the founder on the neo-fascist, blah, blah, ironmarch.org, blah, 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 ProPublica. So its ideology, Adam Waffen burns copies of the United States Constitution and flag, two things. I'm very much against anybody that would deface the Constitution. The flag, they're both symbols. That's what you got to understand. They're symbols. But the Constitution is a unique document, and I don't think it should be treated so harshly. I think you need to understand the meanings of the Constitution. The Constitution is a great document, okay? They also advocate attacks against the government, blah, 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 attacks against racial minorities, attacks against gays, attacks against Jews. Adam Waffen Division has engaged in several mass murder plots, plans to cripple public water systems, and plans to destroy parts of the continental U.S. power transmission grid. Adam Waffen has also been accused of planning to blow up nuclear power stations. The organization's aim is to overthrow the government, okay? The organization explicitly advocates National Socialism, drawing a significant amount of influences from James Mason and his publication Siege. Adam Waffen also draws influences from Nazi esotericism and the occult, and its recommended list of reading materials for inspiring initiates includes the works of Savitra Devi and the works of Anton Long, a founding member of the Order of Nine Angles, a British neo-Nazi organization, and a Satanist leader. Some members of the group also sympathize with Salafi and jihadist forms of Islam. Adam Waffen Division's founder, Brandon Russell, is alleged to have described Omar Mateen, who prepared the Orlando shooting and pledged allegiance to the Islamic State as a, quote, hero. The group also idolizes Osama bin Laden and in its propaganda and considers the culture of martyrdom and insurgency, blah, blah, blah. as something which should be emulated. I do not. This is the problem, and I'm going to get more into this. If you want to change the world positively for white people, have white kids. And I know what people are saying, well, you didn't accomplish that. Learn from my mistakes. I'm telling you this. And it's not too late for me yet either. But you got to you got to listen to what I'm saying here. So if you want to change the world positively for white people, white Americans, have more children. Have children. Okay? Focus on doing what's right. Focus on learning a trade. Focus on improving your health. Focus on improving your community. Focus on working toward white civil rights in a peaceful manner. So, with skull mask and sign which read God hates, connected with the Westboro Baptist Church. Members in the United States who face criminal charges, this goes over people that have faced criminal charges, non-U.S. branches going over them. You can read this on your own. Hopefully me covering this doesn't get my channel screwed. People that want to know Charles Manson's views on this subject should check out this video. This is by Green Illuminati 9. This is an interview and a documentary done by Nicholas Schreck, who was the son-in-law of the Church of Satan founder Anton Szandor LaVey, also known as Howard Stanton Levy. I strongly encourage people to watch Charles Manson Superstar, educate themselves on the concepts of Atwa, air, trees, water, and animals. I have numerous playlists of Charles Manson showing that Charles Manson was innocent of the alleged crimes. Whether you believe that or not, I encourage people to learn everything they can about Charles Manson and Charles Manson's concepts, and to watch Charles Manson Superstar, this documentary here. It's an hour and 46 minutes. You're not going to be disappointed. Now, this is that organization that's associated with the ADL, what do you call this, About Us, Leadership. It's this Center for Extremism, whatever. So the leadership of the organization is, of course, this gentleman, Mark Wallace, this woman, Frances F. Townsend, this dude, David Ibsen, this woman, Lara Pham, this dude, Dr. Hans Jakob Schneider, advisory board members, Elliot Abrams, Ian Oxen, Grinicio Arquez. Guarantee you the majority of these people are hardcore anti-American. Guaranteed. Crenshaw, Liam Duffy, Henry Farid, Edmund Fitton Brown, Debbie Gordon, August Honning, Robert Hill, Raymond W. Kelly, Giles D. Kirchhoff, Michael blah, 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 blah. You can check this out on your own. This is the leadership of their organization. So let's look at some of what I wanted to show you here is this. Okay, so the Counter-Extremism Project maintains a database of information about extremist groups, including their leaders, history, financing, violent activities, government designations, and rhetoric. Abu Sayyaf Group, again, this is an Islamist group. Al-Murabitun Group, Al-Nusra Front, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab. Now, I am not in favor of any of these organizations so far, but I want to point out, you'll notice the Not Fucking Around Coalition, Black Lives Matter, and other groups that have been responsible for burning down a long list of American cities and defacing American monuments, and a number of murders just recently, and the violent takeover of a large portion of the Capitol and a number of state houses throughout the country, such as BLM. Somehow they're not mentioned. Ansar al-Sharia, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, Saib al-Haq, Badr Organization, Boko Haram, Forza Nova. Okay, now this is a far-right political organization, see? So they're opposed to the far-right and Islam, but you're not going to see any far-left groups. The Golden Dawn, okay, that's a National Socialist group in Greece. The Grey Wolves is a Turkish nationalist group and pan-Turkic group. Hamas, U.S. designated, okay, so yeah, they're, whatever. Halqani Network is a militant Islamic group in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So you notice, you see a complete Hezbollah, whatever, Houthis, Horas al-Din, Incel, the Incel movement, now comprised of an often violent anti-woman movement rooted. I'm surprised to see that here. The largely male incel community blame their inceldom on society. This is another thing that I would like to say about that. You know, a lot of these people that people are calling incels are actually volcels, voluntary celibates. And what do I mean by that? What are you gaining from a relationship these days if you're a man? Not much. And who are you going to date? There's not a big variety of chicks to choose from that can cook, that are normal, mentally well, or generally attractive. There aren't many left. This is the Revolutionary Guard of Iran. Of course, the Islamic State, the Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, Islam, whatever. This is some other Islamic group. But you'll notice, where's BLM? This is a neo-fascist group in Hungary. Hezbollah, another Islamic group. The KKK. Kurdistan Workers' Party, okay, explicitly called for the creation of an independent Kurdish state. So, you're seeing that so this is actually a quote-unquote left-wing group, but what they're mad at is that they embrace nationalism. I don't see any violent liberal groups like BLM or any of these groups, or the Not Fucking Around Coalition, or anything like that here. These all seem to be people of Middle Eastern or Turkic descent, or white people being blamed. The Nation of Islam. Now, why is this? This is not because the Nation of Islam is black. This is because the Nation of Islam calls out certain people, okay, for certain beliefs they have. Okay, they're saying that they're racist, anti-Semitic, etc. The National Democratic Party of Germany is, of course, the modern equivalent of the National Socialist Party, because you're not allowed to have a National Socialist Party in Germany these days. The Nordic Resistance Movement, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Russian Imperial Movement is a monarchist. Now, you cannot be... This is what I think is funny. They are a neo-Nazi monarchist group. You cannot be neo-Nazi and monarchist. Anybody that understands National Socialism will understand what I'm saying. You cannot be a National Socialist and a monarchist. The two are incompatible. The Taliban, this is some Pakistani movement. Okay, and this is, okay, moving forward. So that counter-extremism group somehow, being a not-for-profit, has the ability to partner with our Department of Homeland Security, which is in no short order, probably why the Department of Homeland Security considers white supremacy as the #1 threat to our nation, despite the fact that BLM burnt down pretty much every major city in this country over the course of about 2 years, took over a number of state houses, and committed a number of murders. Not to mention the Not Fucking Around Coalition demanded the establishment of an all-black ethno-state in Texas. But yet it's white supremacy that's the threat to this guy. I don't remember white supremacists burning down our major cities or pulling down every statue of Columbus, Gandhi, George Washington, various Confederate soldiers, etc. That wasn't white supremacists that did that. They weren't defacing MLK or anything like that. No white supremacists tried to get rid of Abraham Lincoln's statue in the Lincoln Memorial, as far as I know. That was all BLM and the Not Fucking Around Coalition and the other anti-white groups that were rioting and setting fire to our country. And yet, during all this, the Department of Homeland Security had the audacity to declare white supremacy the #1 threat to this country. So if you go to the ADL homepage, it takes you right here and it wants you to donate immediately to fight against anti-Semitism and hate. Now, when you try to go, let's see here, review the latest, okay, so anti-Semitic incidents and incidents of blah, blah, blah. You have to remember, this does not include unfounded incidents, only reported incidents, not the ones that were solved and shown to be unfounded. Just remember, your donation to the ADL is tax deductible. Let's see here. So, I'd have to log in there. Let's see. How do I, learn, to never forget? Which social media and game platforms received a D from the ADL? This is just getting ridiculous. So, this is the thing. These people, the ADL, aggressively, Meta, which is Mark Zuckerberg's company, created the Twitter killer Threads. Thanks to integration with Instagram's massive user base, Threads became the fastest consumer app, blah, 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 blah. Meta is promising some forward-thinking safety measures such as blocking users with one tap and filtering out replies with certain words. The company has a history of failing to make good on its promises. Now, what people don't know, a lot of people don't like Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg really did try to fight hard to preserve our freedom of speech on Facebook and remain a platform for people to communicate with each other. However, the Israeli government got involved, our government got involved, all sorts of governments got involved, and they're making all these crazy accusations, and he finally kowtowed to the bullshit. Social media has been a wonderful tool for people to communicate with one another. Let's not lie there. It's unfortunate that different people like to interfere with people's freedom of expression. So policies on hate, harassment, and extremism. Meta's approach terms of use, community guidelines from a fresh perspective, and consider the types of interactions, blah, 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 blah. Meta tacked on a few changes to Instagram's existing policy without addressing the fundamental differences between Instagram and Threads. For example, Instagram's explanation of how they mitigate the spread of false information is not relevant to Threads. It focuses on Instagram-specific features like explore hashtags, blah, 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 blah. Meta's suite of apps has created a labyrinth of policies of hate, blah, 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 blah. Threads, see, you can already see protections for targets of identity-based hate. You can already see that the ADL is trying to interfere with a platform's ability to allow people to freely communicate in the name of promoting their agenda. by disallowing other people from promoting. See, what they're doing is they're shutting down the opposition, so there is no opposition to their narrative. And that's what the ADL does. This is the SPLC's website. Many people might be familiar with the SPLC. I'm going to move forward. I don't even feel like covering it. They have a lot of controversies. I'm going to cover other people covering them. So this is an article from USA Today. The Southern Poverty Law Center is a hate-based scam that nearly caused me to be murdered. Okay, this is because they erroneously, like the ADL, they erroneously accuse people of being haters. Okay? So this person is saying, this is Jessica Pearl Smith. I'll never forget the moment I learned we were on lockdown, blah, 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 my frustration. While I was missing lunch, a crime scene played out in the office lobby below me. My coworker and friend Leo wasn't armed, but he had played the quick-thinking and inadvertent hero, disarming a young man on a mission to kill this person and as many of her colleagues as possible. The gunman had packed his backpack. Now, this is a violent extremist armed by the type of internet evil, as Dylan Roof's stepmother would say, the type of internet evil being spread by the SPLC. The gunman had packed his backpack with ammo and 15 Chick-fil-A sandwiches. Apparently, he was going to bring them lunch also, later admitting that he had planned to smear them on their lifeless faces as a political statement. Oh, I guess he was not going to utilize them as a means to bring them lunch. My bad. Leo took a bullet in the arm, but managed to hold the attacker until law enforcement arrived. This person wrote and edited for the Family Research Council, a public advocacy organization that promoted principles I have cared about since childhood, protecting the family and promoting dignity of every human life. So because this person cares about, they're pro-life, because they care about being pro-life, this person armed with a weapon, with a firearm, Chick-fil-A sandwiches, and the internet evil provided by the Southern Poverty Law Center was going to do this. Shot a guy in the arm. Where is the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, all this crap? Where are they cracking down on the ADL? Where are they cracking down on the Southern Poverty Law Center? Why are they partnering with groups that are promoting hatred and bigotry towards everyday Americans? So biology is not bigotry. My daughter thinks she's transgendered. Her public school undermined my efforts to help her. I never expected that everyone would celebrate or share my beliefs, but I did expect to be able to discuss and debate these differences. So this is the thing. Whether you disagree or agree with this woman's views, does she not have the right to those views? Okay. But she did expect. Now, what about that woman that, the woman that was a trans boy or trans man that attacked that Christian school? Where did that person get the beliefs that the Christian churches and schools were out to get her? Where did that come from? Remember, the media was more pissed off that the person was misgendered than the fact that they attacked a Christian school and murdered children. The Southern Poverty Law Center labeled this person as a hate group. It was the type of violent incident that one would expect a group that purportedly monitors hate, like the Southern Poverty Law Center, to notice, research, and decry. Now, these are people that have partnered with the FBI. The assailant acknowledged in the FBI testimony that he had selected the office precisely because the SPLC had labeled their employer a hate group. It has always been easier to smear people with Chick-fil-A sandwiches rather than wrestle with their ideas. Meaning, it's better to shut people down and to destroy them than it is to actually debate them. People that are familiar with George Lincoln Rockwell will note that very little, almost nobody ever debated George Lincoln Rockwell, but he was defamed and smeared 10 ways from Sunday. It's a bully who calls names and spreads lies, rather than thoroughly spreading a brief's legal arguments or challenging the rationale underlying a policy proposal. The SPLC has chosen to take the easy path, to intimidate and mislead for raw political power and financial benefit. For years, former employers, revealed local journalists reported, and commentators have lamented the Southern Poverty Law Center is not what it claims to be. Not a pure-hearted, clear-headed legal advocate for the vulnerable, but rather an obscenely wealthy marketing scheme for years. The left-wing interest group has used its hate group list to promote the fiction that violent neo-Nazis and Christian nonprofits peacefully promoting orthodox beliefs about marriage and sex are indistinguishable. Sometimes it has apologized to public figures it has smeared, and it recently paid out millions to settle a threatened defamation lawsuit. The SPLC has its own troubles. These secrets are no longer hidden in the shadows. The New York Times, Politico, NPR, and a host of other mainstream publications are reporting on the corruption and widening credibility gap the SPLC dismissed its co-founder in March, and its president has resigned amidst numerous claims of sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and racism within the organization. So that was going on in the organization. A parade of disgraces that vividly forced the conclusion the SPLC is hollow, rotten, and failing at the very virtues it pretends to celebrate. And this is the woman that wrote that. So this is from the Federalist Society, some of the controversies with the SPLC. It's a 501c3, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Let's see. You can view this on your own. It's an hour long. You can listen to the download. It's an hour long. Here we find that the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, revised its definition of racism simply to attack Whoopi Goldberg. People might remember my video series in defense of Whoopi Goldberg. It's important that people defend people like Whoopi Goldberg that are not being allowed to tell the truth. Okay? There's no question that the Holocaust was about race. That's how the Nazis, blah, 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 blah. Jewish people, blah, 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 blah. Now, people can watch my video series in defense of Whoopi Goldberg, and I can show you that Whoopi Goldberg is noted as being correct even by the Holocaust Museum. Her views are correct, according to the Holocaust Museum. Now, people might ask me, what's the answer? Well, the answer is not extremism. I never encourage people to embrace extremism, and nobody has to listen to me. I don't do this because of whatever. But I would recommend people check out pantheism.net here and learn about pantheism. Okay? The elements of pantheism, understanding, reverence all of nature, and I would also recommend people focus on their own health and their own vitality. I think a good place to start is reading about biologic living and reading the book The Living Temple by John Harvey Kellogg. A link is in the description. Again, nobody has to do anything I say. And that's all for this video.